It is against this background, fellow Dominicans, that we come to you today to denounce the recent actions of the electoral office and to demand an immediate fixing of the system in order to get us back on the path to free and democratic elections in Dominica. On October 14, 2025, just one day before the confirmation process was due to begin, the Electoral Commission issued an SRO 39 that called for the use of a government-issued identification to include a passport, a social security card, and a driver's license to be used to confirm the voters' names on the list. What is shocking about this was the removal of the use of a birth certificate as the preferred means of confirmation. The Electoral Office is very well aware that the removal of the use of the birth certificate as a means of confirmation would immediately prevent thousands of Dominicans to confirm the name on the voters list, thus stripping them of their ability to exercise their fundamental human right in voting for a government of their own choosing. Thousands of Dominican voters are not now in possession of those IDs, and many, because of the same action of this government, which have reduced much of this country to abject poverty, has neither means nor the motivation to go in search of a passport. This fact is clear based on the work of the Dominica Labour Party in going around the island and offering to pay for passports for their supporters. This in-your-face, naked manipulation of our voting process by the Dominica Labour Party is being supported by an electoral commission that was meant to be independent and free of political influence. The removal, my fellow Dominicans, of the requirement of a birth certificate now means that thousands of potential voters are vowing not to participate in the confirmation process. Most simply do not have the resources nor the desire to get a passport, quote, just to confirm. Let me remind the Electoral Commission that a passport is a travel document required for purposes of travel outside of Dominica, and no one in this country should be forced to obtain a passport for the sole purpose of maintaining their names on the voters list, by which, by the way, they got in through a birth certificate. Consider this, my fellow Dominicans. An 80-year-old Dominican who migrated to Antigua over 40 years ago and has since given up his Dominican passport can return to Dominica tomorrow and within 10 minutes be confirmed on the voters list, notwithstanding he's been away for 40 years, notwithstanding that he's no longer in possession of a Dominican passport. On the other hand, a Dominican patriot who has been in Dominica for over 80 years, who have voted in over 10 election cycles, and who have suffered for the past 25 years under the regime of the Dominica Labour Party, will have the name struck off of the voters list. Why? Because they are not in possession of a passport and simply do not have the means or the motivation to acquire one. How can this obscene mockery of our election and electoral system be justified? Let me remind everyone that this same birth certificate is the very document that is required for registration on the voters list in the first place. In addition, without a birth certificate, you may not be able to acquire a passport or a driver's license. So how it is that the very thing that sets the basis for you acquiring a passport and a driver's license cannot now be used to confirm your name on the voters list. Let me be fundamentally clear, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Dominicans. The decision of the electoral office to do away with the requirement of the birth certificate is therefore neither practical nor reasonable and cannot be justified under any circumstance. In order to restore the integrity of the process and to ensure that the fundamental human rights of the people of Dominica are protected, we demand that the electoral office immediately and without reservation reinstitute the use of the birth certificate for the purpose of confirmation on the voter's list. My fellow Dominicans, in addition to the now vexing issue of the process of confirmation, we are also faced with the willful violation by the same electoral office of Section 17, subsection 1 of the Registration of Electors Act 2025 that reads as follows, and I quote, "There shall be the continuous registration of persons qualified under this act to be registered as electors." Inexplicably, for several months now, the electoral office has prevented actively the registration of new voters in the Commonwealth of Dominica. They have gone further to move registration officers to become enrollment officers and have not replaced them. And they have made absolutely no arrangements for new registration in direct contravention of the laws of Dominica. They are violating the laws of the country. This blatant violation of our country's laws must stop, and it must stop now. This significant violation could even be used as a reason to overturn any future election results in Dominica. My fellow Dominicans, what we are witnessing has nothing to do with elections in Dominica, but rather we are reading from chapter 2 of the Dominica Labour Party's How to Steal an Election, a plot that has been hatched by the Dominica Labour Party and is now being carried out in full view of the Dominican public by a compromised electoral commission. Let us not fool ourselves. This has nothing to do with ensuring free and fair elections in Dominica, but rather a well thought out plan to keep this government in office against the overwhelming wishes of the majority of Dominicans residing here in Dominica. We therefore join forces with the other political parties and patriots of this country in saying no to the plans of the Dominica Labour Party and no to the unprofessional and law-breaking behavior of the Electoral Commission, who no doubt in my mind carry ulterior motives. We are therefore placing the Electoral Commission on notice this morning at this time that they must act, and they must do so now in order to prevent this grave and looming threat to our democracy and to our elections process here in Dominica. I thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, for some salient points raised here this morning as it pertains to why we are really here, especially you, the people of the media, which at the end of two other presentations by the leader of the Freedom Party, Mr. Bernard Ito, and the leader of the United Progressive Party, Mr. Joshua Francis, you guys from the media will be given an opportunity to ask questions relating to what you heard here this morning. We don't say much more because we have time constraint here. Let me move now to Mr. Bernard Ito, leader of the Freedom Party, for some words.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time off from what I know is always a busy day to be here with us. But these are the things that shape our country, right? These are the things that are important, and we appreciate you recognizing that and being part of the process. The media is really the third arm of governance, and without you, we can't influence minds and influence policy. So thank you very much for being here. As my colleague, Dr. Fonkin, said, let me also thank and welcome my colleagues from the various parties for being here and for doing what we have to do as a united people, as a united opposition to do the hard work, the existential work that is necessary to maintain our democracy on this island. So thanks. Welcome to my colleagues and welcome to all of you. And of course, all the people following us live on Q and Kyrie and the various reports that will go out to them. So welcome as well to the listening public. Dr. Fontaine covered quite well the issues, the framework of the issues, and especially the issue of the documentation required to get reconfirmed. So in the interest of time, I will not hash on that very much, but I will add a few words, in that regard. What are we doing? I mean, what is it that we are doing in Dominica? What is this our state about? What is our nation about? What are we trying to accomplish here on this small island? What exactly are we trying to accomplish? I would hope we're trying to build a nation that is respectable, that is solid, that's progressive, that's prosperous. I would hope that we're trying to build a small Dominican civilization that generations down the road can be proud of and say, we did good work in our limited time here on earth to create some place on earth where people who look like us have control of their destiny and did it the right way and created a society that has a quality of life to be admired on the world stage. That is what we should be about. That's what every Dominican should be aspiring to, and especially leadership. That is what we should be trying to create in Dominica. So in the context of that, how is what is happening now making any sense? What exactly is the logic to make it more difficult to simply have your name on a list and have someone point to that name and say, yes, this is me. I was registered a few years ago. It's still me. Here's my documentation. Confirm me. That is what this is all about. It should be a simpler process than getting registered to get on a list. 18 and so forth. I'm a resident. I've been living here for 6 months in this district and so on, so on. Several steps necessary to do that. That should be a more stringent process. This should be an administrative procedure so that you can confirm I am on that list. I have been on that list. I belong on that list. And yet, what is being done now is to make that administrative procedure much more difficult. But that violates something very important in administrative law or administrative protocol, which is called administrative continuity. That basically says, in an administrative process, the original manner by which you got into the system, if you are simply then refreshing and confirming and validating information in the system, that process should not be more difficult than what it took to get on their original. That is a well-known concept of administrative continuity. And this concept is being totally violated because a grandma living in Girardale will have a much harder time than she did getting confirmed than she did to get registered. You know, there was a time in Dominica's history when you had to have property, income, and interestingly, you had to be literate to vote. All these were seen as violations of individual civil rights. And as we progressed through time and history and we became wiser as a society and a civilization globally, it was recognized that putting undue restrictions to a citizen's right to vote It's a violation of one of their basic civil rights to be involved in the process of governance, to hold their government accountable. And so are we going backward now? That we are now placing restrictions to violate the civil rights of people who were already on a list. It's a matter of civil liberty. It's a matter of a struggle akin to the struggle that Black Americans went through in the 1960s to say, remove the poll tax, remove the testing requirements, remove the wealth requirements. Because a person's ability to vote should not be dependent on the depth of their pocket. Your wealth should not determine how and when you vote. But in this process, that is exactly what we see us reverting to. Because it's costing money, and I'm not talking trivial amounts of money, hundreds of dollars. And if you want to get a new social security card and you have a little back on it, maybe thousands of dollars to be issued a new, hundreds of dollars for a passport. If you don't have a driver's license, $800 to get trained and to go and take the test. So we're talking significant amount of money. The wealth, in a very real way, not in a metaphoric way, not in a symbolic way, not in a rhetorical flourish way, the wealth in this difficult economic time. Who have been hired to do this transformation appear to be predominantly Labour Party supporters. And we're asking the question, why is that simply chance? Is it simply a chance that somehow the chief elections officer has interviewed people for these jobs in the open process, but somehow statistically it ends up with 90% of these folks being supporters of the government? So that is the kind of question we want to ask. What is the statistical reality that we end up with that distribution? And why, if not by chance, why? Especially given the fact that the Electoral Commission is supposed to be a bipartisan institution with balance of both government and opposition forces on there. So you would think that in the interest of building a good, fair process, that the Electoral Office would follow the same principle of having a balanced set of people there to verify and validate that everything is operating as it should. So these are the fundamental issues that we face as a country. Why is it that repeatedly this government tends to erode every institution that is supposed to be placing limits on the government's power to act arbitrarily? Why is every institution being captured by the government to allow it to rule then in an era of chaos and confusion? Because the more chaos and confusion and the lack of transparency that you have, is the better it allows a government to do what it is that they wish to. So that's the context that we're in. And the final thing I'll say about this is we cannot allow that to discourage the people who are opposed to this government to get confirmed. We have to get out there and make sure that our people are confirmed, because if we do not, what is going on now will bake in an advantage to the government for the next decades. And if we are serious about democracy in this country, calling on queue is fine, but let us demonstrate our civic duty and go out there and get confirmed, and we are going to be playing, all of us here at this head table, a leading role in pushing that process and motivating and organizing and galvanizing our people to make change in this country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ito. You just heard some sentiments on this from Mr. Ito, the Dominican Freedom Party leader. As I said before I call on the next speaker, just to reiterate, this press conference is joint, it's one collaborative in nature. And so I know in Dominica, the majority of us have been calling for unity among the forces. And so today is a demonstration of just that, right here, in terms of The utterances coming from us jointly as to the ways, some of the things that needs to be rectified, amended as it were, as we move forward as a people in our electoral process, by which we elect governments to serve us. Time is not on our side, so let me now call on the leader of the United Progressive Party, that is Mr. George Francis, practicing attorney in Dominica. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning to Dominica, those who are listening, both here and abroad. Good morning to the media house, and good morning to my colleagues, my brothers, the leaders of the respective political parties who are present here, the leader of the United Workers' Party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, and the leader of the Dominican Freedom Party, Mr. Bernard Ito. I understand that the leader of Team Unity, Dominica, ought to have been here, but for some reason he's absent in the flesh. Nonetheless, I will take the opportunity to acknowledge his support for this joint venture here this morning. This morning, we are here in pursuit of saving our democracy and getting social, economic, and political justice in Dominica. We are here because of the hard work of entities and individuals in the opposition family in Dominica. This government has shown resistance to facilitate fair and just electoral processes in Dominica. And had it not been the hard work of the main opposition political party, the United Workers' Party, the party must be credited as well, CCM, and persons in their own individual capacities who will not have been here today talking about the confirmation process, maybe we would still be choked with the bloated voters list. And on that point, I want just to acknowledge the efforts of all those who showed up for protestations, the last being on March 19th, 2025. I would say kudos to all the protesters. In the eyes of some, they may be disruptive, but I am confident in the eyes of most Dominicans, they are social and political heroes for standing for democracy and freedom in Dominica. Having said that, I stand here today to lend support to my brothers, both Mr. Ito and Dr. Fontaine, as far as championing the cause for a fair electoral process in Dominica. And having said that, several reports have come from confirmation centers in Dominica, where persons who went to confirm their names on the voters list were confronted by several issues. And I wish to address mainly three of them. It has been brought to my attention that there have been name changes without going through the due process, meaning that persons who went to the confirmation centers with their valid IDs, whether a valid passport, valid driver's license, or valid social security card, would have had a different name to what is on the voters list, whether it is a clerical error, whether it is a spelling error or not, and that changes were being done without due process. The Electoral Commission, in its regulation, have provided prescribed forms to deal with situations of that nature. And therefore, we are appealing to all confirmation officers and the Chief Elections Office that this ought not to be taken casually, in that if someone's name is different to what is on his ID versus what is on the voters list, it may necessitate the intervention of a justice of the peace or an attorney, because person A is and supposed to be person A both on the ID and on the voters list. And therefore, in situations like that, given the nature and the facts surrounding the different names, we are concerned that the confirmation officers allow these voters or these electors to fill in the necessary forms and, where necessary, to get the assistance of an attorney, whether it's an affidavit of identity or statutory declaration, to make the necessary correction on the voters list. Another issue that has been brought to the fore, more so from a commissioner, is that there is a disparity in the name in the form 31 to what is on the electronic platform. The commissioner asserted that on form 31, the physical form, it calls for current address, whereas that information, when being inserted on the electronic form, meaning that it's been placed on the computer, it provides for address of the polling district. My understanding is that form 31 in a physical form should correspond in parallel to what is on the computer or the electronic platform for the purpose of consistency and to avoid any doubt, to remove any blur. After all, we are asking and looking towards transparency, and therefore it is the duty of the Election Commission to ensure that all forms are in compatibility to what's on the physical form to what's on the electronic form. Furthermore, and I heard Dr. Fontaine as well as Bernard Ito mention about the continuation of registration. It is correct that the Registration of Electors Act, Section 17, says that there shall be continuation of registration in Dominica. Section 18 of the said Act provides for exceptions. To date, we have not gotten any declaration from the Election Commission providing justification for suspending registration of voters as we speak. And therefore, I do support Dr. Fontaine raising the question whether that may be a violation of the election laws. Because as you know, voting or registering to vote is a constitutional right. And the law says there shall be continuation, except in certain cases. There is no disaster, there is no war in Dominica, and therefore it is not justified that we have seized the registration process. Nonetheless, in the interest of fairness, I did speak with the Chief Elections Officer in that regard, and she had drawn to my attention that the law did not provide for any transitionary period from the old law to the new law, given that under the old law there was no voters ID, and therefore there was no system to capture the pictures which are required right now, to capture the forms which are required right now. And with the new registration process, the Chief Election Office would require time. In view of the circumstances, she said that her office is working speedily to recommend registration of voters as of the end of the year. I want to make the point that this is a reflection that the Electoral Commission may not have been ready to facilitate the confirmation process. Because at that level, given that for so many years we have been massaging that issue, we have been ventilating, we have been exhaling the issue, it is rather unfortunate that the continuation of registration has to be suspended because the Chief Elections Office is not ready. Let us hope that all efforts are being made to ensure that at the end of the year, that Dominicans who wish to register to vote will get the opportunity to register to vote. And on that basis, I want to urge all Dominicans to take the confirmation process very seriously. Some of you are aggrieved with the system. For many years, you would have thought and continue to work towards a change of government. If you do not confirm nor register to vote, it means that you will be denying yourself an opportunity to add to the value to create a change in Dominica. Furthermore, I want to extend the point which both political leaders before me mentioned, and that is in respect to the SR 29, which reverts the requirement of a birth paper alongside a passport ID and an affidavit to allow persons to confirm their names on the voters list. It is rather unfortunate that the Electoral Commission would reverse SR 27 and replace it with SR 29, making it mandatory that Dominicans require a valid license, a driver's license that is, a valid social security card, or a valid passport to confirm his or her name. Given the current economic situation in Dominica, and we're hearing the cry, we do not have the data to say exactly how many Dominicans do not have one of these IDs. But it is clear that a significant number of Dominicans do not possess none of these valid IDs to facilitate confirmation. And if this were to persist, it would mean that a number of Dominicans will be denied the opportunity to confirm to vote, which is a form of disenfranchisement. A tool that was used to weaponize the justification for this government not to support a complete re-registration process. Now that we have the confirmation, once again, it appears that certain individuals want to play dirty. And in playing dirty, who are the people who have been affected? Poor people who cannot afford to get a passport. Look at the demographics. People who are indigent, people who are unemployed, people who are elderly. Therefore, we are basically working to disenfranchise the vulnerable people of Dominica, the income poor. And therefore, in the interest of consciousness, I'm appealing to the Electoral Commission to do what is right for God and for country, and to reinstate the requirement for Dominicans to be able to confirm their names on the voters list using a birth certificate. Really, it is unreasonable and it's unjustifiable to make it so hard for a Dominican to confirm his or her name on the voters list. If anything, while the Electoral Commission may be concerned about standards and international best practice, it must not lose sight on what is fair, what is just, and what is equitable based on our own given situation here in Dominica. We must always be minded that whatever decision we take as a statutory body, as an entity, or as an individual in public office, that it must be based on our own circumstances. The reality is there are many Dominicans who do not possess a passport, a driver's license, or a social security card. And therefore, the appeal continues for the Electoral Commission to do what is in the best interest of Dominica. I further assert the point in respect to what Mr. Bernard Ito mentioned. There have been reports of certain confirmation centers being associated with activities of the Dominica Labour Party. We must be careful that in our actions at that level of the confirmation process, that we do not appear to be biased, and we do not create doubts in the minds of Dominicans. After all, this is a confirmation process. We should be fair and transparent. And just the mere appearance of the meddling of the Dominican Labour Party in the confirmation process has demoralized a number of Dominicans, such that some are saying they will not go to certain centers to confirm because they have been so injured by the Dominican Labour Party over the years. There are many Dominicans who continue to suffer, resulting from the failures of this government. And they have taken this confirmation process very personal. Whilst some of us may be affected and we are discouraged to confirm the vote, I want to lend support to both other political leaders here this morning that all Dominicans should confirm to vote. I myself, I feel the duty to confirm to vote. And I must say that the process was simple. The process was simple. And if anybody would have a problem, feel free to contact an attorney or contact the Chief Election Officer, who I've had several conversations with in respect to some of these concerns which have been mentioned here today. So all in all, the call is for Dominicans to take this very seriously. Do not wait for the last minute. We have a country to build. We have a country to save. We want to advance our cause. We want every Dominican to enjoy a better life. We want to elevate the standard of living. We want to increase the value of our democracy, our institutions, especially the Electoral Commission, which constitutionally is supposed to be independent. So let us take this very seriously. If you have not confirmed to vote, please make it a duty. Find out where is your confirmation center. Walk with your valid ID and get confirmed. But I want further to say that please check with your brothers and sisters to ensure that they confirm to vote. And if there is a neighbor, a friend, a family member who does not have an ID, please talk to one of us to see how we can facilitate an ID for that person to confirm to vote, whilst the Electoral Commission further consider its decision in preventing the use of birth certificate for the purpose of confirmation. This is the full extent of my contribution, and maybe Curtis would have a question when we come to the question and answer section. He likes to ask questions. I'm hoping that he will ask us questions to benefit the average Dominican and all the other media personnel here. So once again, thank you, and a pleasant day to Dominic.
All right, thank you very much, Brother Joshua Francis, leader of the United Progressive Party in Dominica. Just to reiterate the point that was made before Josh, Mr. Carlos Charles, leader of Team Unity Dominica, was also contacted. He's not here in flesh today, but he endorsed fully what is transpiring here today. Let me take this opportunity once again to thank the listeners of Q95 at this time and all the other radio stations if they're listening. Able News, thank you very much for the very arduous work. DNO, you're represented here. Thank you very much as well. Just to say here, before I open the floor for some questions, all what we have said here today will be put in a letter form and will be sent across to both the electoral office and also commission for basically addressing some of the points that three leaders address here today in terms of just trying to tweak, trying to amend, trying to rectify some of the issues that are confronting us as people as we go through the confirmation process. We don't say much more. I think we have 5 more minutes of live time. So questions, comments from the media. Welcome.
Two questions. Mr. Francis, you spoke earlier. You know, if you have any problems, you should refer to the chief election officer to have a correct. But she's one of the problems. Some person have identified. So you can speak to somebody who may not be able to speak to your concern. And secondly, how far, and Mr. Thompson Fountain, Dr. Fountain speaking to all that, this must stop. You guys need to file an injunction to correct that process. I'm talking to 3 of you on the table. How far are you prepared to go to stop this? Well, an injunction, maybe?
I certainly think an injunction should be on the table. I don't think any options are off the table. Once we fully explore the legal implications of this, we explore the law, and have some legal conversations with the right people. And an injunction is justified. I believe an injunction will be filed, should be filed, most likely will be.
Dr. Fontaine?
Just to add that the threat to our democracy is such that nothing should be on the table. No option should be on the table, including legal challenges, including civil disobedience, including agitation to Dominicans here, international bodies overseas. In other words, we are throwing everything at this because we understand, as I said in my presentation, that this is a sinister work by this administration. You know, something that could be done so simple, something that could be done without anybody even realizing it is done, and be successful. Why it is that this administration is going through so much lengths to ensure that they disenfranchise a significant portion of the Dominican population. That is the question the Dominican public should be asking themselves. And as such, we should not limit our responses to that affront to democracy in Dominica.
I have a question. So specifically when it's the ETO, you mentioned the principle of continuation and specifically on the sort of administrative continuity, right? I wanted to know, because some of it, my questions are already answered, but specifically about that principle, what legal basis do you believe you have in terms of the case? More specifically, are you looking to ground your legal challenge around that principle you mentioned? And if not a legal challenge, what is your sort of tact in terms of getting that particular thing across? It sounded like something with substance.
Yes, I would couch it less as a legal challenge because this is more of an administrative principle, good governance principle, administrative practice in bureaucratic enterprises, and just good governance principle. So it's not necessarily a legal challenge, but the question is, the assertion was made that this is for best practice, right? That this revision from SRO 27 to SRO 29, 39 was that it facilitated best practice. The argument was made, we looked around and we want to implement best practice. But that best practice violates what is standard best administrative practice. So in the context of that, we have a contradiction and we have a violation of the principle that they're trying to use to justify this. So in that context is what is couched. It's also, if you look at the Commonwealth best practices in terms of what is recommended, it clearly says in several clauses that addresses that a voter should not face a higher obstacle barrier to get confirmed, refreshed, whatever term you want to use, versus the original process that they went through to get on those lists and get registered in the first place. So if the argument is going after international best practice, then they are clearly violating several best practices that are universally applied. And the best practice of saying, well, America requires such and such ID, violates the principle of common sense. You have to do, as was mentioned, as we've discussed, what makes sense in your context, in your society. And to require that high level of documentation in Dominic standards is a violation of common sense and absolutely is not best practice. So simply them throwing the term best practice around, we are showing several instances where they are violating the principle of what is common sense and what is international best practice in terms of administrative procedures as well as Commonwealth.
Greetings, everyone. To the head table, very commendable the efforts that you have executed here today. Of course, the collective objective of ensuring a free and fair system. I'm not so sure if this is a question or a comment, but borderlines along that. I've been reliably informed that there are members of parliament and operatives of the Dominica Labour Party that are threatening incidents of the NEP, in such case notably within the Saliva constituency. And in saying so, saying that if they do not get confirmed, that they will be fired or removed forthwith from the National Employment Program. So what I see is in the usual format of the DLP utilizing its national employment intern support base to just continue to justify its claim to more. So I just thought that we want to be mindful and aware of that as well.
Thank you for your question. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Yeah. Good morning to everybody. Of course, good morning to the head table, and I must compliment the leaders of the various political parties. They articulated the issues that people need to, know about. Another issue, and again, it's not a question, but also a comment, which is important. For example, you have a community in the Roseau Valley like Mount Prospect. Mount Prospect, as we know, have been, doing your registration and all of that in Mount Prospect. On the list that was presented for confirmation, Mount Prospect Primary School was mentioned, and it is listed as a place to go confirmed. All of a sudden, one that has been extinguished and it no longer exists. I have a problem with that because you cannot tell me that the people of Mount Prospect have knowledge, elderly people, and in the same discussion to go to Trafalgar and or Loaded to get it confirmed. To me, that is what you call political windball. That's an off-break. Because we all know that Mount Prospect has been supporting is a great supporter of the opposition. We know that. So what do we do to them? You send them somewhere else to confirm. And I believe all those things need to be rectified, and that person should have access to be able to easily go to confirm, because that process must be adopted. Right? Thank you. Just a comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles.
Yeah,
And
I think to respond to this.
I was just going to tell Mr. Charles that this team is in need of your expertise, Charles. You need a thought breaker. Yes.
Yeah, this is exactly why I said in my presentation that we're looking at chapter 2 of DLPs, how to steal the election. When you have examples like this, it's naked examples of trying to disenfranchise an entire village, knowing full well that if you put an onerous condition on them, most likely they will not. And most likely they are probably a supporter of the United Workers' Party, and therefore will not impact the government. That is what we are talking about. When you turn Labour Party offices into confirmation centers, is another. When you hire across Dominica, the only people you can find to be enrollment officers, the Labour Party operatives, is a third. This is wrong. These are the problems that we are facing. We have people today who are refusing to go into Labour Party offices to confirm. And again, we are calling upon the electoral office to change those centers, and also to make sure that every single village in Dominica has a place to register. It is not fair. We are putting a burden that is deliberate, and that is why we continue to insist that the electoral office has taken the side of the Dominica Labour Party. And having said that, let me just say a big thank you to the two commissioners, Mr. Wayne James and Mr. Hilary Shillingford, who continue to fight so valiantly against all of the pressures to ensure that common sense prevails and that we have a commission that acts on behalf of the people. But the Dominican public should not sit back and take this lightly. Dominica is happening right before our eyes. Read the book, read the chapter. It is happening before our eyes. We have to make everything within our powers to ensure that we prevent this occurrence from going on.
Thank you.
Dr. Fontaine, good afternoon to you. What then is with your concerns? What then is your message to supporters of the UWP as far as the confirmation process is concerned? What do you say to the supporters at this time?
What I say to my supporters is that those who have the IDs, go ahead and confirm. We support the confirmation process. That's the law of the land. We support it. So we want to encourage those who are able to do so. But bearing in mind, as I said, a significant number of our supporters are not able to do it. A significant number of our supporters in Mount Prospect cannot now go or refuse to go to Trafalgar to register. So what we're telling our supporters is that we'll continue to fight to reinstate the birth certificate, but until then, they should be encouraged to support the confirmation process.
All right. Any more comments, questions from the media? Okay, Mr. Francis.
Yes.
We'll take about one or two comments and read it all.
I will respond to the comments emanating from the Kalinago territory in respect to persons being threatened to confirm by Labour Party operatives. Let me say that every Dominican has a constitutional right to decide whether he or she wishes to confirm. And no person, no entity, no political party has the right to cause somebody to confirm under duress, force, or undue influence. And should any Dominican find himself in such a situation, be at liberty to contact myself and any other right-thinking leader in Dominica who will stand for your cause. If you have been facilitated to confirm, ensure it is voluntarily. For those who do not have a national valid ID and you are getting assistance to do so, for example, if a Labour Party operative visits your home and says he or she is going to assist you to get one of these valid IDs, it is okay. But in getting that assistance does not mean that you have a leash around your neck and you must support.
So the confirmation process should be as easy as possible to confirm, because once you're on the list, you wait past 18. Okay? So in that case, I think we will continue to push it on, because we believe it's an important issue, not a partisan issue. It's an issue of liberty, it's an issue of democracy, and it's an issue of a united Dominican. If we go to the point where I come to my people because I have resources, and you find yourself come to your people, we are just dividing the people into partisanship, and that's not good for our country. So again, thank you so much. I thank the leaders very, very especially for showing up, and the presentation made by them. Excellent presentation. The people of Dominica, we recognize it. The people will be,
What you just said was a news conference presented by the ERC, presenting the issues surrounding the challenging the confirmation process in Dominica. You heard from Thompson Fontaine, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, the leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Bernard Ito, the Freedom Party leader, and the UPP, headed by Mr. Joshua Francis. It appears that still a number of challenges facing this process. A question asked, how far are they prepared to go to stand up for the people who feels disenfranchised at this time? Again, good afternoon to you, and welcome to the Talk on the Block. We're going to come back after this.
Dominica, that's rum with you. I wanna drink. Dominica, that's rum with you. Get the body, drink it every day. Give me energy. Alright, make my way. Get the body, drink it every day. Give me energy. Time today, we wake up. Okay, my body, my knee, push ready, full energy. My body, my knee, push ready, full energy. Okay, distributed by Belfast Estate Limited. Drink it, but don't abuse it. Okay, boom.
Madam Boboy Madi, Laukali, he put a Bryce and Company. Here the Rice and Company, the only company I know with Bryce was cooking water and back and neck. Now with the last valley short. I said Bryce, in the old the plus nefla where you have a roofing material and seamless guttering. Yes, 24 gauge governors, all colors. Ever open Nipu gas peel agent, they program the computer to give you the exact size you want. And the seamless guttering aluminum that can better withstand the elements you have in an easy way. So no leaking after a while. And so much more. Bryce and Company, the at by 8 bank close to the old mill at Enfield. Telephone 617-2468.
If you know quality, then you must know the manufacturers of Dominica's finest rums. Belfast Estate Limited, over 80 years leading the industry with exceptional standards and formidable customer service. We present the manufacturers of BB Rum, Soca Rum, Red Cap Rum, Cask Rum, and the signature Belfast Estate Rum Punch. With island-wide distribution daily, Belfast Estate Limited has cemented its mark as the distributor of choice for products like Eldorado range of rums and creams, Kubali Bear, Corona Bear, Guinness, Root Boy Drink, and of course the Sunblast Juices, Topper Snacks, Vitamalt, and Pine Hill Juices. Call the office at 440-7032 or visit the distribution outlet at Jimmy Dominica. Follow on Facebook or Instagram at Belfast Estate. Belfast Estate Limited, your leading manufacturer and distributor of rums in Dominica.
All you, I just meet Goldwyn in Roseau again. Same place outside Flossie's. I tried to dock in, but he had time to see me. Where? Story start again. Million, lot of my power with us, huh? Fella, I said the same thing you do it, shopping at Flossie's. And you don't have to tell me the same thing you tell me last time because I'm busy. It's to hear him way. You reckon? About my pocket, yeah. I won't tell you that I save money in food and drinks when I buy quantity. I save more. Oh, shucks, man. Well, when you're still telling me, I know already. Tupac respect him, why? When I get him up here for Palais, I will tell all my friends from London, US and Dominica to come to Flosses, right next to the Rosa Market. Open Sunday to Saturday. Flosses can't do it to you.
Dominicans, Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane, can't wait till you flood again. Till you fly out and all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season. Insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roseau. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get in today.
Know your favorite store, dial it now. 612-1253. That's Mega. You can rely on Mega for some real deals on name brand clothing and electronics. High quality, low price. We are a wholesale and retail store located in Calabishi, right on the main road. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram as Mega Deals Dominica. Like our page. Check out our stuff. Call us, visit us. Would appreciate that. Come try it on. Love it. Buy it at Mega Deals. Your one and only online and brick and mortar store. Mega Deals is also on wheels. We make it convenient for your shopping. We deliver straight to your door. Email us at info@megadealsda.com. Rely on Mega Deals for some real deals.
All right, Dominic, we can now take your phone calls. Apparently, there's still a lot of issues surrounding this confirmation process that the opposition feels it has to challenge or will challenge if it's not corrected. The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. These are the numbers to call. "207, how far are they prepared to go?" Meaning the leaders, to file an injunction if it gets to that stage, to stop the process and make it more conducive for every Dominican eligible to exercise their voting rights. Hello, talk to me on the telephone. Are you there?
Hey, Mr. Pelton, blessings to you, sir.
Blessings to you, sir.
I am not going to take no part in that caution, man, that illegality, that criminality, inadequacies, whatever the case may be. Matt, you know what baffles me?
But don't you think, Blessings, don't you think it'd be discouraging others whom you may have some influence over not to participate in the process?
Matt, too bad for those who have influence over you. Do not allow me to influence you or to have influence over you. Please be independent-minded, and that is our problem.
Okay.
We want to always have people to influence us. What about the mind of your own? A decision of your own intelligence. Matt, let me just say something. I am hearing the saying, if they persist with that, they might file an injunction or whatever. They're asking for us to go through the process, support the process. That sounds quite contradictory, Matt. Why would you tell me you know the process is inadequate? Maybe illegal. Wasn't a parliamentary decision, Matt, to have the 4 different IDs, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
They went with an SRO and they sabotaged that. Now you, Matt, you and I and these great gentlemen, educated men, Matt, know it's criminal or it is to accommodate another, spend less money, Matt, with less voters and still another elections. You asking me to participate, to support Matt. Matt, I think is from day one. From the time they get to know, they drop it. That's why Matt, I watching the world, look at their television, and the next one a phone, Matt. And the world is at my disposal. That's why sometimes when I say things, some people get in all hot and bothered. I don't bother with them, Matt, because I know that's the way, what they call the civilized world or the astute world or the sharp world enough, and not sleepwalkers do what they have to do, Matt. You cannot give no politician what they call the illusion called power, the leverage to do things, and then you want to stop it also.
I don't know what happened to your telephone, Blessings. You might have to call back. Hello, 210 is the afternoon time, yes?
Yes, man.
Yes.
Matt?
Mhm.
Yeah. My opinion on that is take them to court. If nothing else works, take them to court. We can always have a revolution if we have to have a revolution, if we have the support and the drive of the people. But in the meantime, put them before the court. Thank you.
Are you saying don't wait? Are you saying don't wait?
Wait for what, Matt? Put them before the court.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Let's move on, yes? Uh-huh.
Maybe the NJIC or the Chinese, Matt.
Well, I don't
I am just saying, Matt, in conclusion, I am saying, my brother, you see, a man who refused to compromise in a situation where, or in a process that's supposed to be an independent and constitutional process, Matt. And Matt, you never see an area where scary compromise, Matt. Are you there with me, Mr.
Yes,
President?
I'm still trying to understand where you're going with this one.
What I'm saying, I mean, full carriage rain.
Mhm.
Have you seen an area, in a significant area, where the people stand up and say no and scary compromise? Can you recall, Matt?
No, I can't recall.
He plays hardball, and we they playing little softball, rounders, and kakaroba. Matt, you know what they call a kakaroba? Those soft kind of ball we used to play, target it and all of that. That's the game these guys are playing. I am just saying, Josh, I respect you. You went through the process. You find it was easy for you. It was accommodating. Could it be it is set up for people like you to not find no fault in it? And when the majority of the people come, Matt, all of a sudden they find it's like pulling out teeth. I am just saying, Matt, sorry for those who want to allow me to influence them. Do not make a decision based on what Blessing said. That is my opinion and my decision. I am not into no kind of abuse, Matt, by an administration that calls themselves constitutional or democratical or democratic. I am not into that foolishness, Matt. Man needs to learn to stand up and fight back. And I'm not talking about with guns and knives. Politically, if I may say. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's on Facebook saying, man, how do you mean take them to court if nothing else works? The system is already tainted, so doesn't really matter if you file to the court system is already fixed. The system is all corrupt. But it's clear that, of course, the system, this confirmation system, is having some issues there. I'm hoping that those in charge listen to the people. 214, hello, yes?
Yes, good afternoon to you, Matt.
My brother.
Your listeners, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Matt, I was trying to follow the press conference or the meeting this morning, and my light, I did not have enough money on my light, so I had to run down to Kingston and I missed the entire thing. That's a joke. Matt, when I heard Ronald Charles say this afternoon, because I did not hear him this morning, that they took the confirmation center from Mount Prosper
I put in Trafalgar.
put it in Loda, and I'm asking Mount Prosper people to go to Load Trafalgar. That's the only reason why there should be an injunction into the whole process. This is the reason, man. Okay? And I'm not going to do like that and say I'm not going to re-register, to reconfirm. I will at some point. But this is the reason to take that thing and injunct it, the whole system. Injunct that thing there and take it to court. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Let's see if we can get some voice messages there. Coming in at this time, 449-3095-96 and 97. Yes, there are problems. We're hoping that this some of them can be rectified. So why would you want to take a center from Mount Prosper and move it to Trafalgar? Interestingly, why should that happen? Maybe the question should be put to the chief election officer. So already the people of Mount Prosper feel that they've been disenfranchised, huh? How convenient. $2.17, yes?
Matt, I want to say something finally, and I have nothing to say again because I have a kind of mind. Sometimes I have to hold my horses. When you heard me said, and you and I almost clashed that day on the air, I just choose to stay quiet. Matt, that is why I was saying in the Wild Creole Festival and Independent coincided or collided, Matt. When I said take the fight to the criminals, I tell that to several people, I was trying to get to a point, but Matt tell me what I mean by revolution and rah, rah, rah. But I was saying, call a press conference. You have international and regional journalists. Send them official in the invitation. You have great minds like Josh and other great people on the Dr. Fountain and them, they know smart things. And send them maybe in a covert or secret way, Matt, invitations and tell them, look in such and such a location. We are holding a press conference. We would like all you to help us to spread or disseminate the information we're about to discuss down there. If you don't want to go that route, maybe just, something, we print t-shirts. No democracy in Dominica. Something, Matt, my brother. We should not have allowed most of the people to leave and go because, Matt, as I tell you, Skerrit don't play. And he's in the worst situation. Matt, if I play in football and I 5-love and half time, Matt, next half I look into break somebody leg or to put somebody down, especially the person that's scoring the goal. Boxing, everything have a place where people become desperate. And Skerrit is in a very, very desperate area, Matt. The opposition or the resistance should not have allowed that opportunity to pass us by. Even Dr. Andre give me 100% support on the ceasing the opportunity while we had all these foreigners coming and party. We should have, before that, we should allow them to hear our plight, Matt. And Matt, please, when you go to a press conference, ask Kerry to call a press conference and let us talk about Alba, Venezuela, Russia, America, Dominica. You see all of them looking alike, Matt? Okay, don't worry.
All right, thank you, blessings. 2:19 is the afternoon time. Let's see if we can take a voice note there. A lot of voice notes are coming in. We want to also address the issue of Venezuela maybe later in the afternoon. Now, let's take this one.
Good afternoon to you, Matt. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Uh-huh.
There are two major issues being addressed here today. There are other issues, in my view, but these two are the two major issues being addressed today. First of all, the birth certificate. It is the easiest document for us Dominicans to get if we can prove that we were born in Dominica. From the moment that we were born in Dominica, we were entitled to this document, and we use this document to acquire many other documents, including the passports and driver's licenses, etc. They know full well that it's the simplest document to actually get. Yet they deprive those who are least able to get the other documents, those who are least likely to ever need to get them, either driver's license or passport, deprive them of the right to utilize that which is the easiest for them to get, which is their birth certificate. That in itself disenfranchises hundreds, if not thousands, of Dominicans from being able to easily reconfirm themselves on a new list. Now, this government claimed that the reason that they were pushing and they were holding back on electoral reform for as long as they did is because they wanted to insist that those of us who lived in the diaspora should have the right to not be disenfranchised in terms of our ability to cast our vote. Yet, they are totally silent, totally quiet on this latest move on the part of the three persons who represent their interests, their personal interests, and the interests of the Dominica Labour Party in removing the right of persons to utilize the easiest form of identification, the birth certificate, from the process. Now, let me just warn the persons who do participate in this process that when you go in and you confirm your name on the list, be careful that you don't walk out of that room thinking that your name is already on that list, because it is an application, according to certain members of the commission who have spoken on it. It is an application that you are making for your name to go down on the new list as being confirmed. An application. So it does not happen on the day that you go in and you do what you do, presenting your documentation, etc. It happens supposedly after that. So I would warn people that if you participate in this process, do not convince yourself that your name is now on the list. Check and double check and triple check in 2 months and 3 months and 4 months and 5 months time to find out whether your name is in fact on that new list and whether it has remained on that list. That's one. Now, I believe that it is even more serious, the fact that the Electoral Commission, which is supposed to act independent of any advice from any outside parties, has decided, apparently, allegedly, to stop the process of registration of electors, a process that is protected under the Constitution as a process that should be continuous. But you have to ask yourself why. Why did they do that? I believe somebody in this press conference mentioned a reason given by the chief elections officer. That reason to me sounds like absolute nonsense, and it should be read out again so that people can internalize it. What is it that is her reason as to why it is that they have stopped the continuous process of registration? And also take note of Mr. Duncan Stowe's statement as to why it is that the birth certificate should also be removed. His reasoning for that was that it would create too much paperwork. You're being paid to do the work, my brother. So this foolishness about it creating too much paperwork is absolute nonsense. If it is the simplest, easiest, cheapest way of people confirming their names, then that should be facilitated within the process. No excuses. Okay? Now, the stoppage of this registration, in addition to the disenfranchisement of hundreds or possibly thousands of Dominicans through the process of removal of the birth certificate as one of the documents to be presented, both these decisions will reduce the numbers of persons who live in Dominica who will be able to, though qualified, will be able to get themselves onto that new list. The persons who are no longer allowed to utilize their birth certificates, if they cannot get the other three documents, or they cannot be bothered with going through the rigorous process of doing it or the expensive process of doing it, they will not be able to confirm their names on the list. The others who will be disenfranchised as a result of the stoppage of registration are the younger people who are turning 18 during this period of stoppage, who on the basis that they are now 18 years old and born in Dominica would have been qualified to get their names onto the list. But because the emphasis is on confirmation as opposed to registration which would increase the numbers of persons on the list and thereby would increase the numbers of persons who possibly would vote against the government in an upcoming election. The stoppage is going to prevent these people from being able to get their names onto the list. Now, the young people of Dominica need to take note of that. Again, the government of Dominica, which is supposed to ensure that the Electoral Commission, which is supposed to be independent and act independently of any other outside parties, should be insisting that the Electoral Commission follow the letter of the law. Instead, they remain quiet. Why? Because it is convenient for them. It is convenient to stop the registration of new voters, young people who may be angry, upset at the fact that jobs are difficult to find. There's no job creation. There's all sorts of issues that the young people are facing that they may very well decide is reason for them to vote against the government in an upcoming election. And they're now being deprived of the right to register their names on a new list. So I would just like to call on our people to look at these 2 points and look at them very seriously and understand that this Electoral Commission, with the decisions made by the top 3, are assisting the government in reducing the size of that list, that new list, and ensuring that the names that get onto that list will be majority, possibly the names of persons who will come from the diaspora, flown in at the government's expense in order to ensure that the government remains in power. This is a total and absolute injustice and should not be tolerated on any level by any Dominican. Simple and straightforward.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all of your listeners. Matt, the guy who called you after Blessing get cut off, I do not know him, but I call him Nuff said. Matt, I am in total agreement with the guy, you know. Because, Matt, other countries, when people disagree with something, and the majority of the people say it's not good, the government will say, well, the country is the people's country, and they will listen to the people and get it right, Matt. But Matt, our Prime Minister is not so. Whatever our Prime Minister have done, I do not know, Matt. But one day I would like to ask him, If he have done anything that he's afraid of to do things right, please get it right, because anything that go wrong, no matter how long it takes, man, it will show up. I am telling you. And so he is not a person who believes in common sense prevail. I do not know why. I don't know if it's because I do not know if it's because it is said that 11 oil tanks was registered in Dominica for Iran. I do not know, but Matt, I'm afraid. Other islands, when people say we do not want that, the leaders will hear and they will talk to the people and try to get it right. This prime minister of ours, he do not have that in his blood. That is not in his DNA, Matt. And so I agree with the guy who called and said, which I call him enough said, go to court instantaneously. Don't delay, don't procrastinate. Go now. If we have to raise funds, let's do it, but do it now for the people. You know, Matt? So blessings again when he get back on the line, he asked you this question, you know. He asked you if this prime minister, if this government rather, does do anything or fix anything when people say it's wrong. He don't have that in him, Matt. I do not know why, but he and God knows why. So I agree. I'm voicing out. I'm contributing today by means of this voice note to tell the opposition, go to courts. No, take that matter to the courts. And I think whatever he wants to do after, if you want to call election after illegally, that is business. But stop that madness. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you. The question is, Richard Bloucher, what's wrong with living right? It's a big question in the afternoon. What's wrong with living right?
Living in a whole dark world where evolution is taught by man. They took prayer to school and boiled and spilled on order and commandments to be removed from outside. But one question to ask them, what's wrong with living right? What's wrong with living right? I'm doing what I know to do. I'm living what she is the way.
Is something wrong in being right? That's a big question.
Going where I should go.
Hi, good afternoon,
Good
man.
afternoon to you. How you doing? How you
Good
doing?
program.
Yes, thank
Matt,
you.
I believe the people of Mount Prospect should not leave Mount Prospect and go to Trafalgar, neither to Loda, to do any confirmation, because when they are voting, they will not be voting in Trafalgar, they will be voting in Mount Prospect. So they should have a center in Mount Prospect. I believe nobody from Mount Prospect should not leave Mount Prospect to go to register in any area more than Mount Prospect. Thank you.
All right. That's a call for the people there in Mount Prospect.
Mark, sometimes you have to try to understand why he name. Why he name what's the guy name that's on the talk show? Because what he's saying, he just call a spade blessings. He calling a spade. Not because he's supporting UWP and they're wrong, he wouldn't say they're wrong. Or not because he's supporting Labour and they're wrong, he wouldn't say wrong. Whoever he's supporting, he'll say they're wrong. And that's just the man and he's right. Where are those Labour rights will just sit down and say, okay, everything Corey and Chris. But blessings is saying to you, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Yeah, that's what the man saying. Understand something, man. Sometimes it's not everything is politics, but
You know what I mean? Yeah. Call a spade a spade. Yeah.
I guess it's left to the opposition parties to think of the best move going forward now. Hello, 235, yes?
Matt, I want to assure that caller into that voice note that you did not cut me off. And number two, I want people to remember how uncomfortable it was for the opposition members who had that act hanging over their head, that legal act, when Roosevelt Skerrit spent more than $10 million, estimating more than $10 million to have them in the courts. We need to turn it around. And there's enough reason why. Number one, you cannot have 3 passport sellers on an electoral commission. That, my friends, is a complete, it's a complete folly. It is against all mental assessment that can be real. 3 passport sellers of citizenship by investment on an electoral commission. And the head of the commission stays mute for years. And then all of a sudden, after the prime minister passes his law, he starts to talk. And now he wants to institute even more restrictions against the voters. That cannot be. There must be some legal redress on that. And that is only one point, Matt. In the interest of time, I will stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I read in a post of Mr. Albin Waha. He says, Matt, you know the UWP don't have support on the ground in Dominica. Okay. If that's what you claim now, okay, let me just put something to you. If the United Workers' Party or the opposition don't have support on the ground, why don't you stay in New York when an election is called and encourage your friends in the diaspora to stay where they are? And then you'll prove yourself right or wrong, okay? Encourage your others like yourself, don't come to Dominica when an election is called, okay, Al? Maybe you prove your point that the opposition don't have any support on the ground. Okay, Al? That's a challenge to you, so stay in the Browns when the election is called, okay? On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes?
So yes, Matt,
Are you-
again,
are
you
you
know,
the-
I mean, this is that guy who just said about the people from Unprospect shouldn't go up there to get confirmed. Because it's very true, and as I said, this is the reason why they should have an injunction, that whole thing, because you have disenfranchising all the people in Mount Prosper, because as he said, that I'm reiterating it, that the people do not leave Mount Prosper and go to Trafalgar or wherever to vote. They vote in Mount Prosper. So that is grounds to injunct the whole thing, Matt. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon to you. So I just challenged my friend Albin Noir, when an election is called, stay in the Brown. You might get more tile jobs up there, okay? And let the people in Dominica vote for who they want. So Al, you're now discouraging people from the diaspora to go home and vote, huh? Because you're saying that the opposition have no support on the ground. So put a call on Facebook or wherever, whatever source or platform you have, and discourage the people from coming to Dominica to vote, okay? For some reason, you have given some good advice this afternoon. Hello, talk to me, yes.
Matt.
To you, yes.
Matt, I'm from Mount Prosper, and I have no intention of going to Trafalgar. So I think the opposition need to put an injunction on that. They should not waste time. And I don't think nobody from Mount Prospect should go and get reconfirmed or whatever in Trafalgar.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. That's a voter there in Mount Prosper, saying she refuses to go to Trafalgar to confirm. On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, you know my problem with some of your callers, and you say, "How you doing about that?"
Good.
Matt,
So you're gonna listen to me out?
yes, I'm going to listen to you, but you have to.
So you're staying in the Bronx when an election is called, yes?
Matt, I'm an official paying member of the.
I ask you a question. Let's speak. Are you gonna stay in the Bronx when the election is called?
Matt, I have to be down there to support my party as a paid member. Matt, the reason why UWP can never get it for because Thompson is very lazy. Thompson don't want to go door to door. You see what Joshua's my partner. I mean, we have differences when it comes to politics. But Joshua is a man who will go door to door. Thompson don't want to do that. Thompson just want to come and sit in the prime minister's seat. Matt, let me tell you right now, that registration thing, are you too late on that?
I'm just asking you, and you kind of speak to the point. You say that the opposition party has no support on the ground. Well, stay in the Bronx, and support your party from there. Maybe you can support financially, okay? Thank you very much, Al. Thank you. We're going to take a break. I will come back, Dominica, after this.
It's officially white potato season in Dominica. To celebrate, Bloombox is giving you the chance to win a 196cc 4-stroke 6.5 horsepower tiller valued at over $3,000. Wow! You heard right. Simply make a purchase of $75 or more between October 13th and December 27th, 2025, and you'll be automatically entered for a chance to win this powerhouse machine to make your next planting season even easier. Winner will be announced on December 29th. Visit us at Bloombox Goodwill and Roseau. Terms and conditions apply. Let's bloom together with Bloombox.
We are open 7 days a week with the top of the line products. Well stock, supermarket and pharmacy, health and beauty care, fresh produce and meats prepared daily, hot and cold kitchen, ready to go meals, sandwiches, salads, and desserts at your fingertips. Easy access, located on the bayfront, environment friendly, and our staff are approachable and ready to assist. Have you figured out who we are? You got it. Fresh your one stop. Fresh market,
Hardware and home improvement, building supplies for you, kitchen appliances, even home decor too. Lumber, lawn, all your garden supplies, plumbing, welding, electrical supplies.
Visit Do It Center at the former Jane Asset Hardware location on Goodwill Road. Call us at 255-6890.
Do it Center.
You want the leg, you do. Shop at the better than the rest. Go shop at the and the urban wear. Shop at the you get more for what is there. Shop at the shop at the yeah. Shop at the shop at the what is there. Shop at the yes, family, customer friendly, with free locations, it's so convenient, and our prices. Madam, that's where you belong. Oh, tell your mama, tell your papa, shop at the tell your son and your daughter, shop at the auntie, nan, and cousin, friend, open power, all of them. My grandpa, open neighbor, girlfriend, boyfriend, side. What? Shop at the shop at the shop at the shop at the check us out at Pottersville High Street and downtown Rose.
All right, let's continue in the afternoon. Our next stop will be, of course, replaying an interview we did there with Crispin Gregoire, the former UN ambassador, seasoned diplomat, with the situation there with Venezuela, United States, and Russia. How soon will they launch an attack will they change the strategy because Russia is now involved? On the telephone, hello, talk to me. Yes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Now, the guy who called all them is from the bunch. He's from Roseau, Portsmouth.
He's from Bafa State.
Okay. That man can never do that in Jamaica. Live up there, he will come down there, get big money, and try to corrupt us Dominica because as they get his money, in Jamaica, time at the back of the donkey and drag him out. Ocean kid, he can never do that. He's enemy of Dominica. He's Dominica's greatest enemy. This man is a beating. So,
No, we can't encourage any violence, okay? I'll have freedom of speech. Let him talk. 2:45. Let's present this information as we shared this morning with our listeners as it relates to the situation there in Venezuela. Facing Venezuela. Are you there? Let's take our final call. Yes?
Yeah, just quickly, Matt. I want to tell you, Matt.
Yes.
England, France, America, and maybe some other countries, Matt, are fighting a proxy war in Ukraine against Russia. None of them want to openly show they're fighting. They're secret. It's a proxy war. It's under a false pretext. They're playing the little games. It's the same game Russia is going to play in Venezuela. Russia will not attack America. Russia knows the beginning of World War III. Why China is not talking, and China has massive investment in, what's the name? Alba? Venezuela, no man, Venezuela. So it's a game, Matt. So now China is showing Dominica flag is in the background, twinned with the Russian flag, with the Chinese flag. Matt, it's a game, but Matt, you know when you're playing games, I watching some little children with a doorbell prank during sometimes earlier this year, whatever they were celebrating, not Halloween, something else. And a little guy gets shot in the back and he was killed. And they were just going in the neighborhood, ringing people doorbell and run. So what I am saying, Matt, it might flare up into something because a Russian ship might get hit, or an American ship might get hit. So all them things that you think, well, Russia is serving as a deterrent.
Well, as I heard Mr. Crispin Gregor said this morning, you know, with this going on, I don't think they will allow any Russian ships to enter that space because they will have a blockade. So it's going to be very difficult given the distance that Russia is at this time to participate on to give Venezuela any support. So we have to check that as well, the proximity in terms of Russia and Venezuela and sending ships when there may be a blockade in the air and the sea. So pay attention.
Say that everybody is waiting to hear what may transpire, and the question that maybe all Dominicans are asking, when will this happen? And it's the reality is that President Trump is yet to make a decision. I'm sure they're weighing their options, but Matt, what we are hearing is that there are two options that are being looked at seriously. One is would involve airstrikes on against military facilities in Venezuela, and we've seen video of U.S. Air Force planes flying just outside the coast of Venezuela on the Caribbean Sea. The second option is and that one is worrying, is sending U.S. forces on the ground to seize control of the Venezuela's oil fields. And, you know, we all, many people believe that oil is a major factor in this whole conflict with Venezuela, and that, so there is an option to seize the oil fields of Venezuela and take control of that. But what was very interesting on Tuesday is a report, a very credible news report saying that Russia has opened the door to sending hypersonic missiles to Venezuela. And and a defense official from Russia warned that Americans may be in for some surprises. According to that report, Russia's Parliamentary Defense Committee's deputy chairman, he told the Russian media that he sees no obstacles in providing Oreshnik or caliber missiles to Venezuela, which they consider a friendly country to Russia. And he said that I see no obstacles to supplying a friendly country with new developments such as these missiles, well-proven caliber missiles. He told the Russian website RU. So Matt, so clearly the Russians are involved. There is continuing concern about the number of people that have been killed in small boats. I'm seeing a figure of over 60 people have been killed from the small boats. And interestingly, one of the Republican senators, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, he's one of the more vocal Republican critics, and he's been calling the strikes insane and uncivilized. The administration has not responded to that. They have kept quiet on that. The other development, now that we come into the end of the week, is that for the first time, the Latin American countries, they're meeting in Colombia to discuss this escalation of towards U.S. intervention. Surprisingly, the leaders of the countries have been very quiet. I believe they're all worried about who's next, because Colombia is in the crosshairs. So they are meeting this weekend to discuss all the ramifications of the conflict.
But tell me, with Russia now involved, would Mr. Trump think twice before attacking Venezuela?
He might be thinking twice. That may well be the reason why they have not struck yet. But Matt, all the weaponry is in the region, is in the Caribbean Sea. They're closer to Venezuela than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's anybody's guess as to when, but I think that suspense can continue for much longer. So maybe the president is walking back some of what he said before, but we don't know. Everything is right now up to him and his advisors.
If you had to, as a seasoned diplomat, speak to the Caribbean leaders, because they just last week spoke about the Caribbean in a zone of peace, what would you advise them at this point? Do they get involved? Do they say anything, or just stay quiet?
No, I think one should never close the door to diplomacy. I think the Caribbean countries need to be speaking with Washington at whatever level they can get some kind of engagement. I am sure that the ambassadors of the CARICOM in Washington are meeting with Department of State on a daily basis to see if they can bring a change in the administration's thinking. But Matt, I strongly believe that their views are no longer relevant. The Caribbean countries, a number of them have been very closely associated with the Maduro regime.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. might have no use for them. I see that Grenada is still hedging. They have not made publicly any decision. They're still weighing whether to let the U.S. use their territory to monitor communications and movements from Venezuela. So I believe that the Caribbean countries, they're just like hedging their bets, hoping that nothing will happen. But I think the door for diplomacy is open, but whether it's yielding any outcomes, I don't think so.
You don't think so at this point in time? But again, we will admit though, Crispin, that it will have a lot of repercussions if this continues to go on. I'm reading reports that we might have a no-flight zone very soon.
There has been a report that there might be a temporary no-fly zone, and that would mean that for some time, and we don't know how long, planes might not be allowed to travel the Caribbean airspace. That's a very likely possibility. Of course, even the shipping would be impacted. There would be some temporary slowdown of shipping, or even stopping shipping, especially going further down the Caribbean towards Trinidad. So the area around Trinidad is very active with U.S. military activity. And so I again want to underscore the great importance of small boats not taking any chances, because they will be destroyed.
We're also hearing, of course, and I'm sure you heard, Mr. Gregoire, that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is basically moving away from her friends in the CARICOM and trying to support more the U.S. Are you surprised at that?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Trinidad has been greatly impacted by the Venezuelan crisis. They have been inundated with refugees from Venezuela. I understand that there are about 100,000 Venezuelans in Trinidad. Then, the crime situation has been aided and abetted by the narco terrorism that's going on. Trinidad is bearing the brunt of it. So, Matt, as far as CARICOM goes, there's a certain level of coordination of foreign policy imperatives by CARICOM, but there is an understanding that any country can go at it alone. They can choose to follow whatever is in the national interest, and I think Trinidad is exercising that, and not. They have opted out of the CARICOM kind of consensus, and they're going at it alone. Of course, the government in Trinidad is new. The Prime Minister has not been in office, I think it's since June. And Trinidad is taking a different course, and they don't want to be on a coalition course with the United States. And they have actually offered their territories to the U.S. Navy. And you've seen photos of the U.S. naval ships docking in Port of Spain, and the Prime Minister is very clear. Now, I understand that that has raised some tensions within the Trinidadian government. Some people feel that they shouldn't. The U.S. Trinidad should not be as cozy with the United States. But Matt, the reality is, in that regional equation with the United States, might is right. The U.S. is going to do whatever it wants to do in the Caribbean, and even whatever the Caribbean leaders say will not matter. I think that the president is laser focused on. He's saying that he's walking back talk about regime change. But I believe that is just a way of getting people not focused on that. But I think ultimately that is the objective.
But
I also wanted to say there is also a Chinese factor in all of this, but it's just not clear. We are hearing more about the Russian partnership with Venezuela and their attempts to help them with weapons, but we're not hearing much yet about the Chinese.
But with the zone of peace that these Caribbean leaders have been touting, do you think that will have any impact on this, discussions going on there between Venezuela and the U.S.?
I think that zone of peace it's a good stance. It's a good posture to be calling for peace. However, Matt, the United States is not concerned about zone of peace. They don't see. While we in the Caribbean, it's great that we have this notion of a zone of peace, but and that is about rivalry between the United States and conflicts with other countries in South America. But the US is focused on its interests, and its interest does not coincide with the zone of peace that the Caribbean countries are promoting. So it's falling on deaf ears in Washington. I can tell you that.
It's a situation, as we of course wrap up, Crispin, that we have to continue to watch. But now that the Russians are involved, I suspect they may be, taking some steps back.
Yeah, I think that they're recalibrating their approach to how they do this because Matt, there are Russian troops working with the Venezuelan military in Venezuela as we speak. There have been over the last months there have been visits of Russian military naval ships into Venezuela. There has been joint maneuvers by the Venezuelan military and Russian military. So there's a lot of cooperation going on. And I think that is one of the concerns of the United States. They're not echoing that publicly, but certainly they're concerned about the growing Russian involvement there. Of course, in previous interviews with you, I had mentioned why the Russian relationship with Venezuela grew. It is precisely because of the sanctions that President Trump in his first term had levied against Venezuela. And so Venezuela was left with no choice but to turn to other partners, and especially for military hardware and software, and also military training. Of course, the Russians are showing that they can still get involved in the U.S. backyard. And I think the U.S. wants to end that. They want to bring an end to that, and that's why it tells me that regime change is very, very much high on President Trump's agenda.
But the question at this point, because I was having a discussion with some persons there yesterday, that seemed to indicate that the Americans may be intimidated by the Russians being involved. How would you respond to that?
I don't think so, Matt. First of all, the Russians would not want to be caught in a conflict where they are the underdog. I think if an intervention happens and the U.S. lands troops in Venezuela, there will be fighting, and Russian troops whatever contingent of Russian troops that are in Venezuela could very well be brought into the fight. But Russia is so far away, I just don't see how they can even send supplies to Venezuela once an intervention starts. Because, Matt, what is at stake for Venezuela right now is a naval blockade. Nothing can enter Venezuela without the U.S. allowing it to. And Venezuela airspace is already in full control of the United States. So, even for example, people are speculating what would, if President Maduro decides to leave, how would he leave Venezuela? Right now, the only way he can leave Venezuela is by land, the land border with Colombia. Maybe that is an exit strategy, and I'm sure that's a contingency. The U.S. is looking at that very closely. How would he leave Venezuela, assuming he decided, okay, I'm going to resign? What happens to him next? The U.S., I don't think they basically said the CIA is operating in Venezuela, and they have authorization to do lethal interventions. So people will be killed. There's no question in my mind that people are going to get killed. But God forbid that the President Maduro himself loses his life in all of this. But I think that we're in for some stormy times ahead. And no one knows except the president when he gives that green light to strike. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that moment.
Oh boy, we're about to wrap it up here on the afternoon show, Talk on the Block. Somebody's asking that. What I don't understand, people are disagreeing with the U.S. intervention in Venezuela. They're going to liberate the Venezuelan people from forced election fraud. It's not just about oil. And at some point, we in Dominica, we're going to need the same intervention for Dominica to remain a zone of peace. Just a thought there on the WhatsApp message. Somebody says, man, I'm listening to Mr. Gregoire, and while I myself is concerned about what could happen in Venezuela, the Russians will not have any serious deterrence by way of their weaponry. Russia has been unable to defeat Ukraine because the Ukrainians are using American weapons to defend against Russia. In the Middle East, we have seen multiple countries up against Israel, either as individuals, as a group, and every time they have lost. War itself does not really solve any problem. War only causes more deaths, hardship, and suffering, so it's always best to go the diplomatic routes. Just a thought there as we go. Hear what the Alba countries have to say. I've heard them. They've been very quiet in recent days. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Not finally.
You said it twice before. Go ahead.
Because you're too hot, I can't ignore that. When I get listening, I'm concerned about what is happening in the world. Matt, and that is in my backyard there, Matt. Just over there, Matt. Are you not concerned, Matt?
I'm very concerned.
Matt, let me tell you, you just read something there. Matt, Ukraine are holding 18 and 17-year-old boys and send them to the battlefield. You should see a video today on the television where young men are crying they're captured by Russia. They do not want to die. Ukrainians, Matt, that's another story. And I said it. While America, England, France, Germany, them secretly helping Ukraine to fight Russia. Russia is killing them like flies. Matt, check Scott Ritter, Colonel something McGregor, all big former retired aged men, military men that getting the information to know what's going on. But my concern is about Dominica. Matt, that Alba deal we have, Matt, if America cannot destroy what the Chavez, Matt, what are they going to do, Mike, to our beloved Prime Minister? Matt, you know the CIA, they don't play. Do you know that, Matt?
I know that well.
I hope they don't climb under Mount Daniel, maybe some...
Something seemed wrong with your telephone, Blessings. I'll have to, of course, maybe we'll connect. Maybe tomorrow. But I'm going to take one there from Singing Sandra. Thank you. Let's do this one there from Singing Sandra. The war will go on. I've got to go, though. Singing Sandra in the afternoon, soothing your nerves at this time. The war will go on. A big classic from Singing Sandra.
Devastation and destruction from heaven sent and began.
And then limited time and again by man and then fellow man. That man would learn from history. It makes him more violent. But you can get the weapon with nothing but evil intent. So the war will never be over. Peace will never be seen. Long as man in his quest for power keep destroying fellow human beings. Fellow human beings. I'm telling you nobody.
I'm telling you, nobody.
Think of it. Nobody will stop. But the agony of defeat will linger. They can still hating one another superpower. Looking for more power. As long as violence and aggression still dwell in the hearts of man, brother, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, the war will go on. It cannot be won. Fall out from what scale? Plenty agony, plenty pain. Economies have been shambles that may never rise up again. Collapse of the money system, disruption of foreign trade. People turning against their leaders for the black that they have made. Environmental pollution, radiation taking its course, and the thousands that die in battle for what are waste of human resource. Of course, I'm telling you, nobody, nobody. When you really think of it, nobody wins a war. The brutal clash of ideology, and social anarchy, and life reduced to pitiful nation. The falling back of progress and growth for entire generation. Sister, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, the war will go on. It cannot be won. War is just like a racket. It pays dividends for a few. But what does it profit the masses? I mean laymen like me and you. While the leaders train their chest pain within the masses that form with political propaganda. The masses still goes on. The soldiers, they never started, but they give their life easily. While the leaders are in a safe place working out strategy. So you see, telling you nobody, oh nobody. When you really look at it, nobody wins a war. It has been the passage of history with the blood of the weak and the mighty. Great culture manipulating. War shall create and destroy political boundaries as it goes on. It cannot be won. The war will go on. No, the war will go on. It cannot be won. Object of war is simple. Just conquer and take over. It doesn't matter how many people that wipe out in the massacre. The enemy must be vanquished. The battle has to be won. But the conflict will never be over. But the enemy lingers on. There will always be more dictators, more Hitlers, more Saddam Hussein. And with these lunatics in power, it will just dance all over again. And again, I'm telling you, nobody, oh, nobody. When you're ready, think of it, nobody wins a war. The spiritual revolution to stop this brutal aggression. More peace in the world will always